Story 1. Dad said, "Girls like you will never make it in life." He now lives in a house with black mold. One sister is mentally ill, the other he's supporting, and she's going nowhere fast. Mom called me a shrew, as in telling my husband, "So, how do you tame the shrew?" I told her, "He actually treats me well and doesn't neglect me." Story 2. "Take her to the orphanage. I don't want her anymore," said by my father as he pushed me into the bathroom while my mom was showering. He did that after he beat me severely with one plastic leg of a child's chair because I played with it earlier that day and didn't put it back where it belonged. He had just spent the day cleaning. My whole left leg was purple for days, and I even wet my pants. I was around 9 or 10 years old, and I still remember the exact clothes I was wearing. A close second to that moment was perhaps my brother telling me, "If they get divorced, it's your fault, and I wish a cord would go around your neck, snap your head off, and you'd die." A testament to a very loving childhood. Story 3. "If you hate your life so much, take it," said to me by my mother, who, ironically, made an unsuccessful attempt on her own life 5 months later. Of course, she denies ever saying this, as does my dad, because they're allergic to accountability. Runners-up being, "I brought you into this world, I can take you out, and that's not my daughter, that's a demon," all said in the same night. Story 4. "Mum, can the Red Cross help you? After my apartment building burned down, I needed somewhere to sleep that night. I was 18 and had just moved out a few months earlier. She was scared of how her husband would react to me coming home. Adoptive father, I really thought you were dead in a ditch somewhere. I wish you were. Our family was the happiest it's ever been with you gone." 2 years after the aforementioned fire, after having been largely homeless during the intervening years, I had been keeping in touch by making a collect call home about once a month, so my sister would know I was okay. He put a collect call block on the phone so I couldn't call. I hitchhiked back to check in person after a few months. He was an abusive individual. She was a doormat carrying loads of generational trauma. They divorced about a year later when she found out I was telling the truth about the collect call block. My sister got in a car accident and couldn't reach them. She came home a day and a half late from a concert, bruised, and there was a big crying, yelling argument that ended with Mum calling the phone company. Story 5. "Even though I had to go to extreme lengths, you should have never stayed and paid my bills and the food for your 3 underage siblings. You would have been better off leaving because I despise you." This comes after I dropped out of college and for 4 years straight worked tirelessly to help my siblings finish high school and provided for them in every way, as if they had been my own children. It's an understatement to say I hope she lives a very, very long life, because when she needs me again, I will reject her just as she dismissed all my sacrifice and selflessness. Story 6. "My parents are great and so supportive, but my little brother recently got into a really nice college, and so many posts have been made about finally seeing your son go off on their own and how it's hard seeing your kid grow but so proud and such, but like no such posts were ever made about me. True, I went back to community college in my mid-20s and I'm not the golden child, but damn. I love them though. I know it's not intentional, even if they do see more promise in him. They're just very supportive people." Story 7. "This whole thread is a bunch of what the actual F***ck, and I want to give everyone a hug. My parents never had a kind word for me, but I don't think they ever actually wished me dead." Story 8. "You don't have friends. You'll never have friends. This is while I'm dressing for a friend's funeral. Please don't walk next to me. I don't want to be seen with you. The happiest time in my life was right before you were born." Story 9. "I had a lot of conflict with my mom growing up, and one time she said, 'I love you, but I will never like you.' She probably said that around 8 years ago when I was 14. Along the same lines, I've been told that I'm the reason our family falls apart every few years. It made it really hard to believe in genuine connections if the people you see every day say this kind of stuff to you." Story 10. "Why would a boy like you? You're a terrible and ungrateful person. You're worthless. Shut up," while holding a knife to my face. Most others I've mentally blocked out, to be honest. I've gone no contact, and life couldn't be better. Story 11. "I told them about the bullying I was subject to, including name-calling. They used that very name to mock me and laugh along with my siblings. I've never gotten over it. Story 12. Maybe it's nothing compared to some of the stuff here, but I was a socially awkward, more than usual preteen. I mentioned to my parents that a YouTuber I watched, old YouTube, back when YouTubers actually had dignity instead of selling advertising space and merchandise left and right, was publicly out as being on the autism spectrum. They said, maybe you shouldn't be watching someone who's autistic. I don't know if he would be a good role model. Guess who got diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder a few years later? Story 13. I hope they kill you next time, I said after being severely battered and hospitalized by two guys who had been bullying me for months in high school. That was all my mother said about it. Story 14. Not said, but did. My mother stonewalls me when I don't agree with her or give in to her requests. When I was a kid, I had no idea it was termed stonewalling. It was difficult growing up, like walking on eggshells when she was acting up. Story 15. My mom told me, with a broken lamp stick at my throat, that she knew she should have aborted me. My dad said I had an okay face, but there are no boys who like fat girls. Story 16. My mom said, when I was a tween, that she never wanted me and that my dad begged her for another baby. Earlier this year, my dad confirmed it and expressed how happy he was to have me. Even to this day, he receives lots of presents from me. Story 17. Good grief. These are all horrendously hurtful things to say to your child. I'm sorry for all of you and hope you have people in your lives now who love and appreciate you. Story 18. I never had a girlfriend in high school. I am, in fact, an introvert. I didn't really have any friends in school at all. Anyway, my parents decided I'm gay because of it. I don't come off as feminine, never did anything to imply it. They just decided to think that. My mom has always been very supportive of me coming out, uncomfortably so. My dad has always made it a point to mention whenever a gay person is mentioned, what kind of torture or violent death he'd like to cause them because they're gay. Anyway, as a grown man living a country away from my parents and married to a woman for many years, on the occasion I hear from them, I always get asked if I'm still with that girl. Yes, that's why I got married. Thanks. Please leave me alone. Story 19. You're lucky you never ran away because I wouldn't look for you? Completely unprompted by my mother. Even though I did try to run away but came back because I was afraid of being brought back by the police. I didn't think I'd have a chance surviving on my own as a kid, but I wanted to find somewhere to hide so I could die and not be found. Story 20. I heard, my obligation to you ends once you turn 18. My entire life. I didn't cause problems, did well in school, completed my chores, and didn't have behavioral issues. I was a normal kid. Definitely the least favorite though, and the scapegoat. My siblings all got coddled. They were allowed to stay at home as long as they wanted, received financial help, and began their adult lives much better off than I did. The youngest is still living at home at almost 30, and is catered to and coddled. This sibling spends all of their money on electronics and eating out, doesn't do chores, and doesn't pay bills. They live the life of a teenager with a part-time job, which is the complete opposite of how I was treated. Story 21. My dad once told me, when people look at you, they know they can make a fool out of you. As someone who has been bullied by various people in my life, including family, that cut deep. Story 22. It's going to be funny watching you try to get a job. People like you should be rounded up and shot. Don't forget, you earn the way other people treat you. You deserve every horrible thing anyone has done, will do, or has ever said to you. Story 23. Reminding me that they hate my other parent, then comparing me to that other parent during a fit of rage. Telling me anything good about myself is from themselves and everything bad is from the other parent, the parent who abused me too, then died suddenly. Story 24. In a drunken rage as a child, my mom yelled at me that I was worth less than the scum she cleaned out from under her toenails. That one still stings a bit, but points for creativity. Story 25. Had my mom blamed the divorce on me when I was in 8th grade. Still, don't understand how she came to that conclusion. She turned her anger toward me for quite a few years after. Definitely didn't have any long-term effects on my mental health. Story 26. My estranged mother would tell me every few years all about how having me had ruined her life. These days, She plays the victim to everyone who will listen about how I am a terrible son and went no contact. Story 27. You are a burden, and I wish you would stop being our problem because you are the reason why everything went wrong in our life. Or, if they see a car crash, they look at me and go, that will be you one day. They wonder why I don't visit often. Story 28. Every 11 years, my birthday falls on a holiday. Whenever that happens, I was always pulled aside by my mom before and told that the holiday is very important and my birthday does not matter, and that I would be lucky if anyone brought up my birthday at all. For what it's worth, my mom's birthday is December 25th. She, of all people, knows what it's like to have it fall on a holiday, and we always went out of the way to acknowledge her birthday. It was pure hypocrisy on her part. This year, the only person to acknowledge my birthday at all was my 11-year-old niece. Luckily, my birthday will not fall on this holiday until 2086. I should be dead by then. Story 29. They gave us the wrong child at the hospital. I would have never chosen you as my child. I love you because you are my son, but I do not like you. You have always been a burden. Story 30. My father would make jokes in front of his friends about how I was overweight while they were drunk. My mother would say, well, maybe you should try eating less. I have struggled with being over and underweight my entire life. I cannot maintain a balance. Or how I was just lazy when it turned out I had attention deficit disorder and they knew since first grade but figured they could parent me out of it. I was never hit, always the threat of physical violence, especially when alcohol was involved. Every weekend as a child was spent helping build a vacation house. Not being on vacation, doing construction. This was the majority of weekends. I hated weekends. I still don't love them. I was held to extremely high standards in school and was punished severely when I couldn't get A's. I was grounded for months in almost total isolation outside of school except for my school books, so my only activity could be schoolwork. Actually, the most hurtful thing to me overall was when my best friend's dad died when we were around 12, and my parents told me it was up to me to cheer my friend up. I have enormous abandonment and codependency issues now. I am 40 and just barely made it out of an abusive relationship last year. Currently living at home, laugh out loud. For what it's worth, they've realized they did some things wrong, and we are close now, but yeah. Oh, you totally didn't ask for my life story. Sorry about all that. Laugh out loud. Story 31. My mom asked me, why can't you be like your sister? Decades later, I realized our mother is a narcissist and seemed to enjoy the drama it could create between my sister and me. Story 32. My dad told me to shut up when I was around 10. I just love to talk, and I totally get it. It was just us in the car together. I will never say this to my child, though. It really hurt, and he could have just said he was overwhelmed and wanted some quiet. Story 33. When my mom was dying of amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, I gave up everything to be her caregiver. She was so sweet to everyone but treated me pretty bad. I moved out eventually but still fully intended to be her full-time caregiver. Just not living. She couldn't believe I actually set a boundary and stuck to it. What is with some boomers, man? So easily triggered and taking boundaries so personally they turn into hypocritical monsters. She told all our neighbors and mutual friends that I abused her. Came back for her money and her car. Also, she used her last trip out of state to visit a man who wanted to be with me when I was 25 and he was 60. I told her if she did it, it would change everything between us until she died. She said, that's your choice. When I screamed, how dare you at her? She literally pretended to be scared and threw herself on the ground, like I abused her. I was so traumatized by the reality unfolding between us and in front of me. I will literally never be the same. She passed away and there was healing, but she never apologized. I just decided to be there and not give up because of all she did for me growing up. Story 34. Mine said several things and so my brain selectively forgets those traumatizing things. But I constantly remember her comments about my body. I am so dysmorphic. I hate it. I have never gained weight easily. So she would hit me with the, why are you so skinny? And I keep feeding you? Story 35. My dad told me and my brothers when we were 7 to 10 years old that we weren't useful or were worthless. The first 5 times hurt, but then we couldn't care less. He is too much of a curmudgeon. Story 36. My father didn't say anything as horrible as some of the posts here, but he didn't say a lot in general to me. After he met my smart and ambitious high school girlfriend, for example, he said to me, "I don't get what she sees in you," in an eerily neutral tone, expecting me to provide a satisfactory answer. And when I failed to do so, he said it was proof I was too stupid for her. Story 37. I hope they seriously harm you next time. After I had been severely beaten, hospital stay, by 2 individuals who had been bullying me for months in high school, that was all my mother had to say about it. Story 38. I am proud of you. After 26 years, I realized that for a long time, I was seeking validation from my father, and I never heard it until he was on his deathbed. I always knew that he loved me in his own way but was unable to express it to his sons. Man, that was painful.